I'm the author of the Clockwork Republics series. It's a series of retellings of classic fairy tales like Little Red Riding Hood, Snow White, and the Snow Queen, but set in a steampunk world. So one of the things that's been really cool this year is I was asked to participate in Gifts of the Magi, which is a speculative holiday collection. It's an entire collection of short stories, 14 of them, set in different science fiction and fantasy worlds. They're all part of the series for their authors, and the proceeds go to Indie Reads, which is an organization that promotes adult literacy in Indianapolis. This week we're going to be having a signing and reading at Indie Reads Books, which is in downtown Indianapolis. And I'm going to be there along with 7 or 8 of the other authors from the anthology. So I'm really excited about it. If you can't be there, here is a little bit of my story, which is The Curious Case of the Cobbler's Christmas. Merriweather's Mechanicals and Compounding occupied a modest storefront in a quiet St. Louis neighborhood. Despite its unimpressive appearance, the young owners did a brisk business, repairing mechanical devices, taking commissions for inventions, and offering assorted alchemical tinctures and tonics. Christopher Kit Merriweather's reputation as one of the most skilled tinkers in the Republics would have probably guaranteed a steady income on its own. However, his wife Greta's talent for alchemy had earned her an apothecary's license after a mere 6 months of apprenticeship. Between the two, there was little a person of substance could imagine or afford they couldn't create. As pale December sunshine streamed through the shop windows, Kit stood discussing a commission with a wealthy young widow. "Yes, Mrs. Fontaine, we can certainly repair your damaged household gen." Kit's easygoing demeanor was as much a business asset as his mechanical skill. Lavinia Fontaine batted her lashes at the charming dark-haired young man. After years of bending metal and working outdoors in the marketplace, he looked like a living bronze sculpture. Warm brown eyes behind wire-rimmed spectacles, as well as a friendly smile, softened what could have been a rough and formidable appearance. The widow fanned herself, despite the early winter chill. "Oh, that's wonderful! I simply don't know what I would do without Hermes. He's practically the only company I have since Mr. Fontaine's passing." "Hermes?" "My gen, of course. He's one of the more advanced models, so I use him as a messenger as much as a household servant. It's so helpful to have someone to carry little notes discreetly. No one takes any notice of a gen, since they all look so very much alike." She gave him a seductive smile. "Oh, it has the latest modifications?" Kit's eyes lit up with excitement. "Then you'll want to bring in my wife." A frown of confusion creased Lavinia's brow. "Your wife?" "Certainly. Your automaton has the modifications which allow it to act independently, at least enough to walk to another house without someone guiding it. Greta has a lot of experience with those models." Kit caught himself before he blurted out that she'd actually invented the modifications. The fewer people who knew about that, the better. "I'm afraid I'm confused, Mr. Merriweather. I need a tinker. I was told you were the best in the Republic, if not the continent. But you need your wife's help with my gen?" "It's a common misunderstanding. I suppose gens have been around so long people forget they're not works of pure mechanical construction. Or at least very few are these days. Most are animated by alchemy. My wife is as talented as an alchemist as you'll find." "Oh," Lavinia made the disappointment in her voice apparent. "I had hoped to work exclusively with you." "I must be honest," Lavinia looked demurely up at him through her lashes. "It's true I came here to see about Hermes. But now I have to say I'm far more interested in learning about you." She addressed him with a purr calculated to melt the heart of any man. Kit regarded her not with the look of intrigued flattery she undoubtedly expected, but with an expression of dismay. He wasn't even looking at her, but instead seemed fixed on something behind her. "Mrs. Fontaine, I'm sorry, but I'm only available for mechanical work. Perhaps you should find another tinker." He grabbed her arm and attempted to hustle her out the door. She planted her feet, still inside the shop. "But I don't want another tinker. I want you." She looked at him with a pout many men found irresistible. He responded with a sigh of resignation just before something wet and foul landed on her head with an enormous, loud glop. Lavinia Fontaine screamed. Instinctively, her hand reached up to her expensive coiffure. It came away coated in something resembling gooey bird droppings. A sparrow flitted around her head and out the door. She screeched in outrage, spun on her heel, and stomped out the street, where her steam carriage awaited. "I will be sending my work to another tinker after all, Mr. Merriweather." Her voice echoed as the steam carriage chugged away. Kit sighed and turned around. He watched as the mechanical sparrow flit back in the front door, winging its way to the back room. It was painted in dull grays and tans, and moved as naturally as a real bird. "You can come out now. I know you're there. I ought to know, since I made that bird myself. Although I have to say the imitation bird poop was a creative addition on your part. Quite convincing. It even smelled like the real thing." A blonde head poked out from the back room. Laboratory goggles sat atop caramel braids wrapped around her head. Bright green eyes attempted to flash him an innocent look. Attempted, and mostly failed. Greta Singleton Merriweather erupted into uncontrollable giggles. "Oh, Kit, she was so interested in you!" Greta mimicked Lavinia Fontaine's shameless flirting tone. "Greta, you know I had no interest in her whatsoever, and we could have used that commission." He couldn't quite keep the irritation out of his voice. He adored his wife, including her impish nature, but sometimes he wished she would grow up a bit. After all, they were 19 and a respectable married couple. Or a married couple, at least. "Maybe we could have used it, but we don't need it. These bored rich women make me furious, Kit. They think a dalliance with a tradesman is an adventure, as if having enough money to live in peace isn't enough. They're just like her." Greta's expression shifted from mirth to simmering outrage. "Greta!" Kit's voice held a warning tone. They'd agreed they weren't going to talk about her. They were going to forget all about the events which had preceded their abrupt elopement. "Kit, I know you don't want to talk about it, but we can't keep pretending it didn't happen, and I can't pretend these insufferable, overprotected nitwits don't make me angry. They could all be dead right now if not for us. Silly, vapid ladies who let a tin sparrow full of fake poop scare the daylights out of them, yammering about how they long for adventure over their dime novels. You and I know what adventure is really like, Kit, and it's not like a dime novel." Greta plunked herself down on a stool next to the shop counter, deflated. "I know, sweetheart, and you're right, it's not fair. You think I don't think about it sometimes, too? It's hard to go back to an ordinary life after something like that. We saved the world and nobody even knows about it." A deep voice from the front door startled the two of them. Well, perhaps nobody is overstating things a bit. And with that, Greta flipped backwards off of her stool. I hope you enjoyed the reading, and I hope you can make it out to Indie Reads Books this week for the signing. Thanks.